Tonight on Frontline, the story of a campaign as never before seen, from its thrills of victory to its blunders and defeats. It is an inside look at the American way of choosing a leader.
I'm running for president. I'm not running to be a candidate for president. I don't particularly like being a candidate. Some people like to be a candidate. I don't like to be a candidate. I want to be president.
From the network of public television stations, a presentation of KCTS Seattle, WNET New York, WPBT Miami, WTVS Detroit, and WGBH Boston. This is Frontline with Judy Woodruff.
Tonight from Washington, D.C., a special season premiere of Frontline. Good evening, I'm Judy Woodruff. This is the story of what it takes to run for president. Like Jimmy Carter in 1976, Ronald Reagan in 1980, or Walter Mondale in '84, Gary Hart decided to try for his party's nomination. When he started, he was one of 8 candidates with little money, organization, or recognition. And it was back then that this story began. Frontline producer Sherry Jones came to us last fall and said she believed Hart might turn into a major contender. She proposed getting in early and getting in close to him and his campaign staff and telling the story of what happens, what it takes to run for president, to survive the back-breaking pace of 50 primaries and caucuses, to have to raise millions of dollars on a tight deadline, to be, as Walter Mondale put it recently, always in crowds and always alone. Now, almost 2 years after Hart started the race, we know he didn't make it. But the unique access we had to his campaign still gives us a rare view of the American political process, a look at what goes on behind the closed doors, inside the strategy sessions, away from the public eye. Tonight, we have brought together a special group of people to join you in watching So You Want to Be President.
This is the way we pick a president, and this is the way it begins. It is over a year before the election, and the insiders, the political press and the activists, are already gathering.
Gary Hart, what can I say?
Okay.
Francie's gonna ask. All right, Prince, baby.
Well, look, everybody who's anybody is here.
If you want your party's nomination, you have to court this crowd. Whether you're Jimmy Carter in 1976 or Ronald Reagan in 1980, or a candidate this year. So an event like this in the fall of 1983 takes place when most of us aren't watching. It's the insiders who come to take a look at the men who want to be president. Of the 230 million people in this country, the 7 men in this room have decided, each in his own way, for his own reasons, that he wants the power to negotiate with the Soviets, to say how we should be taxed, to decide whether or not to send soldiers to war. That decision begins a journey they all must take.
What was your assessment of tonight's debate?
Oh, I'll leave that up to all you experts in that area. Well, I thought it was very interesting. I was glad to participate.
You know, I think I'm doing well, but I'm not taking anything for granted. It's early.
I think those polls have shown me coming up, have shown Mondale and myself virtually even.
Treating politics as if it were a horse race or a football match. This is the leadership and the future of this nation. It's not a question of who gained some slight tactical advantage over somebody else. I think it's a first step in a long process of forcing the candidates to specifically state their views on some very critical issues.
The reason I ask is because it always has been treated in that fashion.
Well, it's too bad.
What are you doing differently from that?
Focusing on the issues.
sure Abe Lincoln started this way?
Gary Hart's been a United States Senator for 10 years. He announced he was running for president February 17th, 1983, and set out to face what every little-known candidate must.
Hi, I'm Gary Hart, running for president. Just wanted to stop and say hello and leave one of these with you.
Thank you.
I'd like you to keep me in mind as time goes on.
All right.
Okay.
I see you busy. Good job. Yeah. You're right.
Good to see you.
You caught me in the wrong time.
Hi, I'm Gary Hart. Good to see you. How are you?
You're running for president?
Yeah.
A dark horse like Hart gets little attention because, by definition, no one knows him. And that means no standing in the polls, which means no press, which means no attention.
I'm running for president. It's good to see you. It's probably easier for me to try to reach him in perhaps half an hour or so. Oh, it's just I'm calling with regard to my presidential campaign. And I'll call back. Thanks. Okay.
A friend once said of Hart, he dislikes glad-handing, false intimacy, and asking strangers for money. To run for president, he must do them all.
Tabitha. It's Gary Hart. I'm really sorry to be bothering you.
Hart must ask potential contributors to give to a campaign that supposedly doesn't have a chance.
John, this is Gary Hart.
By September, 6 months before the first primary, the press has declared it a two-man race between Mondale and Glenn.
Any participation that you would care to be involved in, we'd like to have you with us. Yeah. I have never been a front runner in any campaign, including my own re-election race in Colorado. And every campaign I've ever been involved in, really, on my own behalf or anyone else, has always been against the odds. And people say, how can you do this, or how are you going to do that? I just say, well, just do it. I mean, there's no, I don't have any tricks up my sleeve. We'll just do it.
Why are you running?
Because I think this country is at a crossroads. I really do. I don't think this is a normal election. And I think the other candidates pretty much represent normal politics and no real new departures in governing in the 80s. And I don't think we're going to solve our problems, which means we'll continue to decline without those new departures. I think it's a critical election. It's not for the fun of it, I'll tell you.
The Sheraton Wayfarer Bar in Manchester, New Hampshire, where the political press hangs out a few months every 4 years. It is always the first primary.
This is it. This is the New Hampshire primary.
It's going to be an upset. It will be here. But the candidates are very much aware of how important this is. And the leading candidate has done a hell of an organizational job here. And if he loses here, he doesn't deserve to be president of the United States. Or even Tobago or Grenada, or even Grenada.
Has there been an invasion in the last couple of hours? Or?
Yeah, we've invaded.
I don't mean the National Press Corps. I mean the United States Army.
Invaded Idaho. Well, I think we have a war a day policy.
But you know what I think this is all about is latent anger and frustration at the killing of the Marines in Beirut.
He spent the day debating the Grenada invasion in the Senate. When you're running for president, though, the real action's here. Hart once said there have been more lies told in this bar than any bar in America. But he needs the political pundits. They handicap the race for the insiders, so he stops by.
Get shit out of somebody, whether they're the right guys or not.
It would be catastrophic for this country to get involved in the Iraqi-Iranian war, and I think that is what Caspar Weinberger has in mind.
What does that do to our support of Israel? I mean, Iraq is...
What does it do to our support in Central America to do what we did in Grenada? I mean, who cares? These people just don't think about those things.
Do you think the Americans were in danger on Grenada?
I don't know. The president won't tell us.
The people that came off the plane said they were in danger.
Yeah, when the bullets started flying.
Kissed the ground when they got off the planes.
Right. That's right. And if
so what would you have done differently?
If you'd been through a revolution, I expect you would have
done differently.
Yeah, I would have tried to find out.
Well, would you have gone in and tried to save our Americans?
If they were in danger, yes, but we don't know whether they were.
They said they were in danger.
After the invasion started.
Well, you ought to address the point.
Senator, you know, when you look at...
We are not in a position of giving them ink. We're in the position of reporting what's going on. And if a guy is a bomb, our part of our job is to ignore them. That's part of our job. If I have decided that a candidate doesn't deserve any more attention than I give him, it's not because of the polls. It's because I've been out there. I've been out in the States, and I've heard what people say. I heard what he's doing, and I've made a judgment that this guy is just not cutting it.
One minute to the start of the convention. 1 minute.
October 29th, the next morning. All the candidates appear before a party forum, each to audition his campaign theme.
I believe what this nation wants is new leadership, new ideas, and a new vision for our future.
He's 1% in the polls, and he is trying to build an organization here. He believes his message will gain him campaign workers and will connect him alone with the huge generation of voters born during the 40s and 50s, because his perception of government, like theirs, was shaped by three searing events: Kennedy's assassination, Watergate, and Vietnam.
The truth is that President Reagan is using force as a first resort instead of a last resort. The truth is that brave young Americans are being deployed and losing their lives in defense of a foreign policy that cannot be articulated, let alone defended. I don't know what this president is going to do for a foreign policy when he runs out of Marines. Our soldiers...
Can't wait to see what the media reports on the Channel 11, 11 o'clock news tonight.
It's going to be good.
It's a good day for you.
Well, when the reporters get the message that this race is wide open, that someone like myself has a very good chance, the whole campaign is going to change.
I really think today, maybe there was enough national support, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let me tell you something. They were in New York and they were in Boston. It takes them light years to figure out what's going on. It drives me crazy.
The idea today, like you said, it's a wide open race.
Well, I hope so.
I think today really
front runners aren't really front runners.
You did have the best line of the entire afternoon, as far as I'm concerned, and use it again, if you will, which was, what will Ronald Reagan have left for a foreign policy when he runs out of Marines?
It's great.
That was good.
If we had this whole crowd of people there today, I wouldn't have a bit of trouble raising money. Yeah. I'm really honest. I wouldn't. They never see that.
That night, Hart meets with what there is of his national finance operation. He's brought them all to New Hampshire to watch him on stage, hoping his performance will boost their enthusiasm for raising money.
It is not a two-man race, and this
He is $400,000 in debt. Privately, he's talked about dropping out if he can't persuade these people to stay with him a little longer.
I mentioned this morning that the reporters are hung up on this is a different process because it happens faster. What their thesis is that they were sold very successfully by the two frontrunners is a dark horse can't win anymore because this system has collapsed. Well, that's nonsense. You can get awful famous in this country in 7 days. I mean, it's phenomenal. It doesn't take much. And name recognition, your polls go up. I mean, the pattern is you do better than you're supposed to in the early states. That is reported in the analysis of the caucus and primaries. People then get excited about the campaign, begin to talk about you. You're on television more, you're in the newspapers more, your name recognition goes up, and money begins to come in.
How do you feel about where things are now?
I couldn't be more pleased by our political situation. I'm constantly frustrated by the financial situation. I mean, I've never seen a race that was more winnable than this one. It's out there. I mean, it is out there. I can touch it. I can feel it. And even more, it's important to win. And we're not just talking, this ain't chopped liver. But then you face this frustration. And the only comparable times were the first Senate race and the McGovern campaign, where you could just put your hands on it. You just knew it was there. And you just, people needed to be paid. Bills had to be paid. People had to be hired. I'll tell you something. There are 50 to 100 of the best political organizers in this country. We could have like that if we could pay them $100 a week, $200 a week. We're not talking $50,000 a year. We're talking just subsistence. People who said, I want to work for you, who are talented, capable people, who can take congressional districts or take regions and organize the hell out of them for $200 a week. Anyway, I couldn't feel better about it. I mean, I really couldn't. I get up on that stage and I look up and down that row and I say to myself, if I can't win this race.
January 1984, election year. The first primary now 6 weeks away. The National Press Corps has moved to New Hampshire. More and more, they present this nomination race as one that will be over before it begins.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you. How are you?
Gary Hart has moved to New Hampshire, too. In the last 3 Democratic elections, a dark horse has won by surprising the frontrunner here. Walter Mondale leads in the polls. He's been endorsed by dozens of politicians and the AFL-CIO. Each endorsement is reported as if it's a primary he's won. It's said the party rules favor the richest, best organized candidate, that his nomination is inevitable. Gary Hart has taken a second mortgage on his home to buy television ads that say the politics of yesterday have failed us.
Gary Hart, running for president. I have enough sense of the chemistry of politics that I think if your message is right and you are the right candidate for the time, that you overcome these things one way or the other. Again, I think it gets down to whether you're going to play the game that a handful of politicians and the people who report on their activities say you ought to, or whether you're going to leapfrog that and do it differently. And maybe there is some risk involved, but I've been kind of a high-risk candidate all my life. If I didn't take any risks, I wouldn't be here.
February 20th. Hart gets only 15% in the Iowa caucuses, but he is second to Mondale, and that's better than the pundits expected. They turn their attention to him.
Are we going to have questions about it? Yeah, but I want to find out what we're doing here first.
He may not like the game, but he knows how it's played.
How well does Mondale have to do?
As the front runner, as the person with the endorsements, as the person with $10 million, and as the person who's benefited most from the public opinion polls, I think he has to do very, very well.
And the obvious next question is, how well do you have to do?
Better than expected.
Which, is this the car he's going in?
Yeah.
All right, this is the car I'm going in.
Hart's own polls show only a third of the people of New Hampshire think it's time for his new leadership. But 7 days of television news and television commercials lie ahead. New Hampshire's primary is now just a week away.
February 28, 1984, from ABC.
The press has spent tens of millions of dollars predicting Mondale's victory.
There are indications up here that something big and surprising may be happening.
And they've done what they usually do, get it wrong.
It appears tonight that Senator Gary Hart is on his way to a clear-cut victory over Walter Mondale. And that would really shake up this race for the Democratic presidential nomination.
He's called a cool and reserved politician, but he says emotion is the product of success, that the day he wins his first primary, his will be the most emotional campaign of all. He wins New Hampshire.
Over a year ago, this campaign started with an idea, and that is adopt a new generation of leadership with new ideas and new proposals for this country. Many people thought, including the front runner, that this campaign would be over tonight. This campaign just begins tonight.
The real political organization in this country is the nationwide web of homes connected by television. And for the first time, those homes are going to hear Hart's message, broadcast by 11 television crews and 60 journalists who sign up in the next few days to follow him.
From New England and the South, to the North and to the West, the people of this country want new leadership, and a new agenda and a new vision for this country's future. The Democratic Party in the past has stood for equality and justice and opportunity. It has also stood for leadership in a period of change. Bold, experimental, new leadership to address the challenges of tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, and not to let this country slip into the past. All the people of this country are ready for new leadership, a new agenda, and new vision for this country's future. If you continue what you have done, we are going to surprise and amaze a lot of people, and we are going on to San Francisco and on to the White House.
Washington. This is the national headquarters of Americans with Heart. For 4 months, what staff exists here has worked without pay.
Her on my list. I haven't been working here very long, and I don't know everybody very well yet.
That includes the campaign manager, Pudge Henkel.
Dictating them, and people are typing them and bringing you millions of copies. It's not happening.
We had to transfer about $250,000, and
Henkel heads a campaign that never really expected to win.
Disappeared, and this has got to be done within the next hour.
Right.
Well, let's talk about how operations is
Okay,
structured.
then Paul is the office manager. Becky is the head of the operator pool. Is Dan developing a system? Okay, let him develop the system then. But I think she.
Screwing up the schedule because we screwed. Because somehow there was a time change between Pensacola and Orlando, and we lost an hour.
All right.
I don't feel comfortable dealing with members of Congress.
Okay, so we desperately need all of the details on the Florida trip for Thursday. Where, what? Does anybody know them?
No one.
Stuart
I
doesn't
just
know?
talked to Billy, and he's like wants everything by 10 in the morning every day. It's not. There's no way. It's good. Look, here's the problem. To begin with, they're just really pissed off about this.
Gun control lady's on hold. This is a scheduling deal.
They're still on the phone. I'll have to take your number and have someone. No. Well, sir, I'm sorry. I cannot.
People can't get to us. There are 10,000 people trying to reach Gary Hart, and we may rise or fall, as Doug says, on the breakup of AT&T and getting phones in.
I think that all of us within the campaign would agree that we do not want to end up after Wyoming or after Super Tuesday with the feeling that this is in essence a Michael Jackson phenomenon rather than a serious presidential political phenomenon.
In less than 100 days, 50 primaries and caucuses will be over.
We're overwhelmed by the mechanics of what's happening, and it's going to be like a tornado. We're going to be overwhelmed all the way. It's a prairie fire out there, and we've got to decentralize it.
Right. We want everybody from every other campaign to feel comfortable that there's a place for them in the Hart campaign. But a lot of the political people have past baggage. They're going to have their enemies. They're going to have their factions. There are going to be a whole lot of people popping up in states like Pennsylvania and all over the place saying, we are Gary Hart.
Or is it maybe it's premature, but do you have a state-by-state list? Because we get a lot of calls from people around
Yes,
the
we
country.
can give you copies of that before you take off.
That would be excellent. New York City office numbers and that sort of thing.
New York City doesn't yet have an office number, which is a big problem. But we will have that.
We don't have a New Jersey yet. We don't have a Pennsylvania yet.
That's what I was going to say.
The day after New Hampshire, they decide the campaign will depend on media instead of organization. There's little choice. Ray Strother produces the campaign commercials.
Invasion of the body snatchers.
I think this is the single most important thing we do today.
This is, I'll tell you something people don't want. It may help us in the short term, but if we become a divisive campaign, that's not what people want.
I agree with
And I think that's why Glenn is not doing well, and I think it's why Mondale will not do well. Attack is fun in the short term. I mean, it's kind of gets the juices going, but it's not what people in this country want.
Well, I agree. Did they tell you about my billboard campaign?
No.
600 billboards going up in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama tomorrow morning, starting at 8 o'clock.
Might have somebody check with the environmentalists. That's billboards are anathema in Colorado. They may not be in Florida. People hate billboards in Colorado.
Well, they're not erecting anything.
Okay.
They're filling blank space,
Yeah.
Arrival, gentlemen, clear the front, please.
As he himself had predicted, he's become a national celebrity overnight. That extends to Maine, where the party is holding caucuses. It is 5 days after New Hampshire.
We're told that it's too close to call, and you are separated and running behind Mondale by fewer than 25 votes, with 28% in.
Well, I can't say anything. We'll wait until the votes are all in. I think if, in some respects, we've already won in Maine. We came from way behind. We weren't supposed to be able to do anything there. I didn't compete in the straw poll. We spent 1/10 of what Walter Mondale did, so I think any showing we make is going to be a victory for us.
The party rules in 1984 dictate that everything happened fast. What the rules don't anticipate is the age of video politics and the spontaneous combustion that can result. Hart's the beneficiary now, but there's a question. Is he prepared for all that follows?
We're going to control this situation now. No! Have you got both of their names? Okay, just pull them out.
New York.
In less than 2 weeks, 9 states will vote on the same day, what is called Super Tuesday.
Senator Hart will attend 3 fundraisers.
From Florida and Georgia to Massachusetts and Rhode Island, Hart and his staff must compete.
Just keep in mind, I just stand up. I just stand up and put that card down and say, I want to thank. I can't put all. I'm just too beyond putting it to memory anymore.
Who are you appealing to in the South?
The core of the appeal, I think, is to that generational group.
Kathy Bushkin is Hart's press secretary and a top advisor.
Where you really seem to be touching something. It's like hitting a gusher.
Pat Caddell is a chief strategist.
One is to restate the theme of the campaign over and over and over. Need for new leadership and a new approach, a fresh approach. And all.
No, I think it's content. I think it's content. But even more than that, I think what you're going to get then is people beginning to project themselves onto a candidacy. And that's when things really start to work.
You have 4 or 5 different people who are totally ideologically incompatible with one another. All think Gary Hart is their guy.
Yeah.
Then what happens?
You win.
The pace of the primaries and the rules were designed to keep people like Hart out. But Pat Caddell, who's been George McGovern and Jimmy Carter's pollster, knows there's potential for something else. Among themselves, he, Hart, and the staff are counting on turning the rules upside down.
I think we got a shot of wrapping it up by Illinois before anyone realizes whatever happened. Remember, a week ago, all they want to know about is which southern state you're going to concentrate on, and we let them play with that thing, and then all of a sudden it's beginning to dawn on them that they haven't really known it. We're going to go for all of them, and that now we've already met. We're going to exceed what they set down as the expectations. Can you win any place on Super Tuesday? Then can you win any place in the South on Super Tuesday? And we're going to exceed both of those, and which just keeps driving the thing on. It's an amazing tactical move for us. This nation can and must provide the diplomatic and moral and political leadership to freeze, halt, and sharply reduce the nuclear arms race in 1985. The Democratic Party must meet its social obligations.
33,000 miles in 13 days, 11 states. In 50 campaign stops, he rides a blitzkrieg of publicity.
And that is moving forward with a new agenda and a new vision for this country. And
Mostly they stop at airports. There's no time to drive into town. In the age of video politics, you run a tarmac campaign.
That gives this nation something to stand for other than just our invasions, that does not send our sons to die without cause in Lebanon or to serve as bodyguards for dictators in Central America.
I don't know too much about him, but I'm going to read up on him.
For 2 weeks, Hart's a master at exploiting the power of television. But its hunger for the next story makes television a two-edged sword.
You say you're a Gary Hart man. Where does he fit in politics? What's his philosophy?
Oh, good government, I guess. Straighten out the economy,
you know, do you know very much about him?
I'm not sure. Not too much yet because the newspapers here haven't had much about him on the issue.
What do you mean by charismatic?
Changed his name, you know, right? Then all of a sudden we don't know how old he is. I mean, you know, these are just fundamental things. I don't really understand why.
Well, a lot of people change their name. You know, if tomorrow you guys found out that he didn't really go to Yale, he just audited classes there or something, I mean, that's a real issue. Changing your name is not.
I read the papers this morning, and they said, in his effort to be like John Kennedy, Gary Hart puts his hands in his pockets and also chops the air. So now my problem is to figure out where to put my hands. I can't put them in my pocket, and I can't chop the air. I think I'll start doing this. Is that all right?
Does he have to win one in the South to prove that he is more than just a New England?
Wait a second. 2 weeks ago, the question was, so the day of the New Hampshire primary, from all you and all your colleagues, was, where can you possibly go anywhere to do anything after New Hampshire? So now it looks like we may win in the North, and now the question is, well, do you have to win in the South? The answer is we have to do what we need to do. I'm not going to get held to those expectations. I said on the day of the New Hampshire primary we would go someplace and we would win on Super Tuesday, and that should satisfy everybody. I don't think it's fair to up the ante here on us.
Why do you allow this aura of mystery and Gatsbyism to be laid on you on this silly birthday thing?
On the what?
On this silly birthday thing.
I don't allow it. I've given the best explanation I can. There's no secret. What is it I'm supposed to do?
On this plane, but on the ground as well, people are saying, and not rudely or snidely, but sincerely, who is Gary Hart? But even the bigger question is, what is this phenomenon? And perhaps down the road, what does it bode for politics as we know it?
We're to blame. I say we, the media, are to blame for the fact that everybody's saying who is Gary Hart, because we just come through a year, 1983, in which the polls and the pundits, including many of us, decided that it was a two-man race between John Glenn and Walter Mondale. And it's true that Hart's been talking about issues for the last year. It's just that he hasn't received anywhere near the attention of the others. He was sort of buried in the back of the pack. And because he was buried there, even before anyone cast a vote, he was pretty much ignored.
People want to hope again. They want to believe again. They really are. I think that's what they're responding to. Also, he's cute, and it sounds ridiculous, but these very old ladies in nursing homes and young kids say, you know, what a face. God, he's much more handsome in person than than he is on the tube. Is this going to play in Geneva? You know, what do they think about this in Bonn? Gosh, he's adorable. Who knows? God bless America.
Oh, really? I mean, it's been 4 in a row, one right after another. Can't you claim the front runner status yet?
I'll wait till I read it in the papers.
Lane Kirkland said today that you were all bun and no beef.
Who said that?
Lane Kirkland.
Where's the beef?
Democratic Party back on its feet. Gary Hart's your man.
The next day, Atlanta.
Reagan, don't leave Atlanta without a stop Reagan button. $1.
The candidates gather 2 days before Super Tuesday. At the very moment, most voters are beginning to ask, who is this Gary Hart? In presidential campaigns more than any other, the candidate is the campaign. But Hart is running just to keep up, missing the seriousness of the questions about his character. As reporters gather to watch, it's Mondale who's determined to lead the news.
We don't elect images, we elect a human being. You refused to vote a windfall profits tax, which, if you had been successful, would have given big oil $250 billion. This is a disaster, and I don't think you thought it through.
Well, Mr.
I don't
Mondale,
believe you really...
Let me respond. Let me respond.
When
ways to do that.
When I hear your new ideas, I'm reminded of that ad. Where's the beef?
Yeah. Fritz, if you'd listen just a minute, I think you'd hear. No, you haven't.
Oh, you ran off with that one. Really? Oh, you ran off with that was the best one.
You ran off with no contest. Really? Oh, boy, that was... I don't know who the producer was, but they were just... And every time they would attack you and you'd have a smile on your face, the whole attack just withered away at that point. Wither away my makeup. Can we do it?
It's only the first time they'll miss the effectiveness of Mondale's attack.
Distort that record. It's there for anyone to see. Yeah. And I just wish that he would stop having a debate about the invented past.
He's raised the one question that will be repeated throughout the campaign.
This is the most distinctive debate, Gary, we've had in the whole of all.
I felt it.
It was the most distinctive debate.
Helps to be the have 4 states under your belt.
Voters are not the only ones who suddenly flock to Hart's side. The newest political star attracts the Hollywood stars, and they attract what's needed most: money. People will pay to meet Penny Marshall or Jack Nicholson.
$5,000 that you would go down and dance with her in the Rio Club. She did. She did. And I'll bid That'd be fun. You get away. He's got his check all
Celebrity fundraisers are only one way to raise money in a presidential campaign. People like Don Montgomery have all sorts of ways.
Hello, how are you doing today? This is Don Montgomery. I'm State Finance Chairman for Gary Hart. Gary will be in the state on the 17th. Yeah. I'll do everything I can. If you can promise to raise 5, we're going to have an event at that time. I think we can definitely put you with a candidate if you could raise 5,000. All right, we're going to send a runner over right now to pick up the $1,000. No, we'll do it today. There'll be somebody in your office in another 30 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you for your concern. Once you are a winner, or look to be the winner, everybody wants to play. I mean, they even call me. I mean, I got lots of calls. I mean, I even had people coming down here from Washington that wanted to run this agency or that agency. You know, they'd heard from a friend of a friend that I was close, and so they just called me up and got on a plane and came down here and took me to lunch.
When was this? After New Hampshire?
Right after New Hampshire.
Yeah, I mean, I raise money all the time. That's all I do in campaigns. And nobody ever asks me about issues. They only want to know 2 things. Can you win? And do you have access to the candidate? And if I give you money, will he know that I gave it to you? And that's primarily what you have to do. You have to establish people like Don and put them in a position where they have access. You funnel the money through him. He gives it to the campaign, and the campaign knows it, so he's the kingpin. Or he's the point in North Texas.
And we were doing like $5,000 a day after New Hampshire. I mean, you had runners to go pick up the money.
Super Tuesday. The suddenly popular Finance Committee meets in a hotel in Washington. The campaign has spent $750,000 on television ads in Super Tuesday states, which requires cash up front. Cash from these people.
You were a beta, weren't you?
No, I was a Phi Delta.
Phi Delta. I was Sigma Chi. You, sure. You were in my class, 57. We pledged 25,000.
A presidential campaign is limited by law to spending $24 million. Part of that comes from tax money that matches what your campaign must first raise.
Mondale has raised $17 million in this campaign. We have raised and spent less than $3 million in this entire campaign. So to raise $400,000 by Friday from the group of people that I see sitting out here, I know is not a very difficult task.
The large financial institutions have loan portfolios, or they have people who do business with them in all different areas. And when you look at where the money comes from, that's where all the money comes from.
Real estate guys are real good in this business. I mean, they're the best fundraisers they are. They have a lot of people. They have real estate salesmen, real estate attorneys, builders, brokers, bankers. You can call real estate guys and give them quotas of 15 grand in 10 days.
They live off of each other, so intertwining. Yeah. I mean, if the broker doesn't come forward with his quota, he may not be the next broker on the next big project. I mean, it gets down to interior decorators, architects, you know. How do you,
tell you, no, I gave money to him because I do business with him.
You know, and they do hundreds of millions of dollars of business.
Yeah.
They don't even know who the candidates are.
Tomorrow, Joe and James Linnell have got to go to Riggs Bank to increase our line of credit from $1.3 million to probably $2.3 million. We're going to take our projections with them But we also want to take a copy of a pledge from each of you as to what you think you can raise. It will show the bank that we have people out there who say they can do it and can get the job done.
This row projects that they're going to be able to raise $99,500 by the time of the Illinois primary, and we're just getting the figures up as to what can.
I'm not sure if this is everyone, but we have $73,000 here.
Well, the row says by Friday, 13,500, and by March the 20th, 33,000.
The total amount of money that has been pledged by next Tuesday is $995,000. Is the Riggs Bank man here?
Almost $1 million in 2 hours. Enough for another 2 weeks or so of television.
Here's a list of each contributor and who they are.
Okay. Did you read in this packet the information about matching funds? The federal government matches up to $250 for every contributor. So in this situation,
If you both signed a check, you get more
you get
money.
the extra $250. In this situation, we would only get $250 in matching funds.
You know, I've been at this too long to care about credit, but how do you handle the past ones? But I've been doing this with him for a year.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too.
As I say, I've been at it too long to be worried about that.
Doug when somebody...
This source put up 350,000. This other guy put up 106. This place is a mob scene. There's no way Gary will get to talk to them individually. Is there any way you can help on that?
He will, but he doesn't want to do it up here. He wants to do it down there. Tell him we will spend the majority of our time down there talking to those couple of guys.
In a room upstairs, the wait for Super Tuesday returns.
Mondale, the apparent winner in Alabama. Hart seems to be running well in Massachusetts and Florida.
The problem is Massachusetts is so slow.
That's a little better.
Hart's campaign is banking on a quick knockout.
That sounded a little better. Yeah, that one sounded more
He knows his
confident.
organization will have trouble sustaining a long battle if Mondale and the unions get the chance to regroup.
Last question. Is he going to do the stills that Karen wanted him to do?
Yes, he is.
There are those moments in any campaign that could change the way history will be written. This is one. Mondale has lost 4 in a row. His withdrawal plan is ready.
Playing what amounts to a sudden death overtime in Georgia.
It comes down to Georgia. If Hart wins there, Mondale will drop out the next day.
ABC News now projects that Walter Mondale is the winner in Georgia by a very...
But Mondale wins by less than 2%. You can only guess what goes through Hart's mind. He knows better than anyone the momentum he's riding cannot last forever.
So that is 2 out of 3 states.
2 days later, Chicago, Illinois. Almost 200 delegates are at stake in the Illinois primary, what Cadell calls the crucial battleground. The Hart headquarters has been here 9 days.
How are you doing, Barbara? How do you like cold weather?
Oh, I like it.
I think this should be...
The lack of money and organization in 1983 now haunts the campaign. This is front-loading, the way the Democratic Party planned it. As in many states, the Illinois ballot is complicated. Voting for the candidate is separate from voting for the delegates who support that candidate. Hart doesn't have delegates in most
We
places,
do not have a slate there. We were asking people to vote Cranston.
so they try to adopt people pledged to candidates who've dropped
So
out.
we're asking that you vote for the ASCU delegates.
To vote for Gary Hart, you must vote for someone else.
Our media buy.
They're depending on media to make up for the lack of organization.
Gary said to Hal last night that he thought we ought to be pumping up the media buy.
Hart is ahead in the polls, but barely. His state campaign director tries to keep things under control.
Nothing has been done to support the field operation whatsoever. The places I've asked to go haven't been gone to. Now, I don't know what polling you have. I wish I did, so I could have strategically deployed my resources yesterday. Even if I had the demographics, I could have had a better idea.
I wish I had it too.
Okay, and 3 decisions are being made at once on the schedule. Ruth's making one, Washington's making one, and Gary and Kathy on the traveling crap game are making another one. And who do you think eats the shit for all these crazy decisions that are being made?
I know.
It's me. I feel shut out. Now, maybe I'm out of line.
No, you're not in line. I mean, the problem is communication in this campaign. We're all shut out.
I'm not looking for answers, Wayne. I'm just looking for a little bit of respect.
Yeah. They've got growing pains out in Washington. There's no doubt about it. They're stretched beyond endurance. They really are. We're stretched beyond endurance here, too, but it's been a shorter time. And I think it's rather remarkable that we can even find the candidate and actually hook up with him on occasion. It's it's insane. You know, you go from a handful of staff to trying to run a national campaign in 9 states spread across the country on Tuesday, and then 7 caucus states on Saturday, and then Illinois and Minnesota the next Tuesday. It's remarkable. It's no way to elect a president.
We elect presidents in campaigns awash in press coverage. There's a constant search for something that's news.
No, I'm not going to retract anything.
Let's not push. Come on, don't push.
No, we didn't order a run. That was the problem. It was a mistake.
And nothing makes news like a mistake, a gaffe. In Illinois, for 4 days, this is what's news. Pat Caddell and Ray Strother produce a negative ad linking Mondale to a local machine politician named Verdoliak. Hart doesn't like the ad.
The most effective thing on election is radio.
He orders that they take it off the air, but that's easier said than done.
That actress was, I think, a woman. Hang on just a second.
Blue Verdoliak ads are still running in Rockford. Okay?
Oh, Jesus. I just talked to Strother's office, and they said everything was off. I'll call them again.
Radio too?
Presidential campaigns turn on mistakes like this. As Hart leaves Illinois, Mondale is taking advantage of the stumbles. He claims Hart is too untested, too unsteady to be president.
What worries you the most?
Nothing particular. Well, I mean that seriously. I know who I am, and I know what the message is, and I know that I have to keep stating that message. And people will either respond or not. As I say, I think my serenity, if you will, is caused by the fact of that I'm either saying the right thing, in which case we'll succeed, or I'm not saying the right thing in case we will not. But there's nothing I can do about it.
Election night.
Have we gotten through to Hart at all?
The networks have projected that Hart will lose by 7 points.
Is there a reason why they're not calling us?
The campaign staff here thinks it will be closer.
He's going to go on the air without calling us. It's going to be like the commercial, right?
They want him to know the defeat is not as bad as he thinks, so he can tailor his speech accordingly.
I believe the results show several things. First of all, we were caught up by finally by the so-called...
Well, he's on TV right now with figures that are totally different than figures we've got. Here, we've got 3 phones sitting here. Here's Northern Illinois.
I just dropped off the cliff because of that ad. It's really the message. They're buying off on the campaign screw-ups as evidence of some inner meaning.
Gene, help us out. Thanks a lot. Bye. This was CBS lighting director. What? It's a lighting director with CBS. You called headquarters at the Mayflower and you get the lighting director with CBS? It's amazing that Hart gets anything at all, that kind of stuff.
Expressing confidence even though he is making a concession speech conceding his defeat in the Illinois Democratic...
In fact, Hart loses Illinois by 4.5 points.
He said, Gary Hart is saying, Mr. Mayor, that...
April 4th.
Well, we had a meeting on Tuesday night that lasted until 3:30 in the morning. Just focusing.
The Illinois loss is followed 2 weeks later by an 18-point defeat in New York.
I think there are unusual things that occurred in New York that some of which we had control over, some of which we didn't.
Pudge Henkel presides over a campaign that's split into 3. Here at headquarters, Hart on the plane, and with strategist Caddell.
I think is the message, and whether we are continuing to get away from our...
The message is what voters absorbed from all 3 campaigns. For 2 weeks, Hart has said he's running a positive race, while they've spent $1 million on ads that attack Mondale. So the script for a new commercial heads the agenda of this meeting of advisors.
The special interests. The special interests are fighting Gary Hart because this is the prize, and the cake is in the shape of the United States. When they carve it up, when all the PACs, all of the lobbyists, and all the insiders get what they want, what will be left for you? Who pays the bill for all of those promises for political support? You do. Gary Hart, no strings. Now, the metaphor gets lost. You have strings and a cake, and that doesn't seem to, unless you take a string and you're cutting the cake with a string.
What does it mean? Is there anybody in the campaign who is questioning the effectiveness at this point of negative advertising on Gary Hart's part in the campaign?
Our distinction has always been that where you're doing a contrasting ad, that's drawing distinctions and differences and is not necessarily negative, because people can come out on either side of the question.
But I think the question is whether that's really telling people what I still think the fundamental question is, and that is, who's Gary Hart and what is he about and what's he going to do? And I like the contrast. I just question whether any longer that's ought to be the focus of the contrast.
But I just don't think that the people of Pennsylvania are going to be overly persuaded that that's a reason to vote for Gary Hart. If anything, if you're out of work or if your industries are dying, you want somebody to go lobby for you.
The problem with the negative stuff is that they try to convince him of too much. Yeah, nobody's going to believe that he's a tool of special interest, and that's just too easy to answer. But if you convince people that he's not a leader, and Gary is, that's enough. It's plenty.
Pudge, can I ask an indelicate question? I don't think it's that indelicate. The indelicate question is whether you've sought some other input from other people on these ads. I frankly haven't seen...
got them last night.
No, I don't mean on these. I mean on our ad campaign. Have you gone to talk to some other people? I frankly haven't seen one ad, and I haven't seen most of them. I've seen some. I haven't seen one ad we've done that I think's all that hot. And these are lousy, in my opinion. And I just wonder whether there are some other people in this business who can help us and supplement what Ray and other people are doing.
The special interests are fighting Gary Hart because this is the prize. When they carve it up.
It's saying broken promises instead of political promises, which is...
Ray Strother is the man in the middle. He's producing the ad campaign conceived largely by Cadell and making the changes ordered by Henkel.
Change number 35.
When he finishes a conversation with one, the other one calls.
Hello.
What do you want me to do? I just simply ran out of time.
The special interests are fighting Gary Hart because this is the prize. When they
Well, see, I don't know. I mean, I just have one person's word for it. Well, that's why I asked for priorities. I wanted those that you thought were most important. Yeah, go ahead. I'll talk to you.
Hart does not intervene to stop the staff warfare.
Who pays the bill?
With no one in charge, everyone is.
Who pays the bill for all of those?
Come on, Sarah. All right. I don't know if Senator Hart had a chance to have some jambalaya yet. We're going to see if we can give a little bit right now.
Paid ads cost money. Press coverage is free. It's even called free media. It's more important in campaigns today than the paid. Television's power drives every campaign. What a community sees on the local news, what the country sees on the networks.
Hi, may I speak to the superintendent, please?
This is Hart headquarters in northern Louisiana.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I need. I'm with Senator Hart's staff, and
Politics used to be ward bosses and precinct captains. Now, in all campaigns, they've been replaced by the person who does press advance. Her job today? Recruit some local farmers to create a news event with a message.
something along the lines of a commercial. Though this particular site is not, I mean, we didn't have to stage anything. It was just there and perfect.
This is what the people on the plane never see.
Cannot afford 4 more years of Reaganomics for the rich.
Backstage in a kind of political street theater where the locals are only extras.
It rains. I'm going back to New Jersey. I deserve New Jersey after this.
That's a Roger. Repeat the number of guests and also what the weather is like there. Over.
About 50 guests.
Yeah.
Weather, it's not raining yet, but it's getting dark.
She is seriously jerking.
That's a Roger. Flight aircraft being posted to copy this.
In and out, in and out. And I'm like real tired of it. Let's do it. Okay, just right back to where
She
it
takes
was.
her orders from the plane, and with 10 minutes until it lands, they're worried about the weather. They tell her to move the event under shelter.
Hey, local press, local cameras, listen to me. Just hold that space in the front for the Nationals and you're fine. Just set up where you were before. Farmers! Farmers! Just get in the press area. Okay. Get in the press area. I don't want to talk about it. Okay, fine. Warren, where are you?
Just minutes later, the sun is out.
People, please, would you move now? He's going to be here any minute. Would you just step back for me, please? Any room for the cameras? I have 100 people
Okay, this is it. Where's Thank you. These are all Callaway. That's Callaway. How are you?
Senator Hart walked by and he stopped and he said, what the hell was I doing in Bosco, Louisiana? And I don't know. I mean, he's supposed to know that. But, you know, it's become surreal.
It has. He said at one point, told me that he, on one long, grinding day, near the end of the day, he had finished a speech at a fundraiser after I don't know how many events that day, and he said later it frightened him that he realized he couldn't remember what he had said.
The candidate ends up like a bee, flitting from flower to flower, pausing briefly to pollinate the flower and then moving on. We never get a sense for the public and the places we go. Candidates probably don't either, but they're forced to do that because of a system that requires them to touch down really in each media market to get as much quick, fast exposure as they can before they move on.
You don't ever read a story today that says Walter Mondale spent the day campaigning in Pittsburgh. Well, no one spends the day doing anything. All you do is fly. All you do is fly. You go from one place to another. You don't learn anything. I mean, I don't even know where we are now.
The system has become a blur. It's become much too fast to have much to do with the reality of people's lives. And I wonder whether or not the candidate, whomever he will be, who comes out of this, what understanding he has of the country that he presumes now to lead.
Hart for president, can I help you?
It is 40 days after the New Hampshire primary. Half the delegates have been chosen. Hart is 300 behind.
Here, let me just check. Pushkin wants, in 20 minutes, everything there is to know about the steel industry.
There are still no issues files on the Hart campaign plane.
Mondale's attacks yesterday were unbelievable on us.
Mondale's attacks hit Hart's character as much as his record. There's tension between Hart and his staff about how to respond. New people are hired to bring coherence to the campaign, from the speeches to the schedule.
Oh, that sucks. Oh, that stinks. Because it's just not the same event. He ain't gonna hold up no pigs, Pat. He doesn't like pigs. He didn't want to have anything to do with pigs. That was the one thing he told us about our agriculture day.
Okay.
We haven't.
We haven't now.
But it's a time when their opponents are facing problems, too. The Mondale campaign has spent too much money too fast, and it's approaching the legal limit.
And did you guys see the Washington Post story today? Walter Mondale, reacting to disclosure that special delegate committees supporting his candidacy or accepting money first denounced the practice and then appeared to soften his stance yesterday, and his top aide said nothing can be done to stop it. Mondale's campaign manager, and here's a guy who wants to run the United States, can't even run his own staff. We've been taking all that kind of shit for the last month. Listen to this. Mondale's campaign manager, Bob Beckel, said the campaign would continue encouraging formation of the independent committees.
They are committees to take money from union political action committees,
There's not a lot we
PACs.
can do about it. Mondale doesn't like it, and I, of course, don't like it. We have no right to go to the labor unions, however, and tell them not to spend their money. It goes on. There's plenty more after that.
Kathy called in this morning
and asked specifically, said Gary is interested in knowing what kind of follow-up the roadshow should be doing on this today.
He may be violating the law. Second, he's clearly subverting all the notions of campaign reform that everybody in this party is supposed to be for. And third, he's being hypocritical about it. He's got his guys in the back room calling up saying, get your committee started, knowing full well they're going to take PAC money, and while he's out in the street saying, oh, no, not me.
The guy who's playing the piano in the whorehouse.
I think that we have to think about something we haven't had an opportunity to do, which is developing almost a story a day on this.
The press is uncovering it. It's an investigative story. Has a lot more credibility with people. I think everybody would agree that Gary plays off the story. It's how deeply he gets involved in making the story.
Why give Mondale an opportunity to come back and say...
But why are we so gun-shy? We've made a lot of mistakes in the past, but we got the issue. Why are we scared if we got the issue?
But we can press the issue without going into the facts and let the press bring the facts.
This is not a thing that ever should come down to, well, our lawyers, our Arnold and Porter lawyers versus their Arnold and Porter lawyers. That's ridiculous.
This is how it works. The press carries messages back and forth between campaign planes, asking one candidate to respond to what the other has said. When Hart finally presses the question of PAC money, when he makes it a political issue for the political press, Mondale is besieged and orders the committees shut down. But by then, the money has been spent in a number of primaries which Mondale wins. Hart is 400 delegates behind. He ups the ante.
He meant what he said in January of 1983, that we should, quote, declare war on special interest money in American politics. He can take one simple cleansing step. He must give the money back. Give the money back, voters.
He said, in retrospect, I think the committee should never have been formed. They're going to give back a ballpark figure of, they think it's going to amount to about $300,000. And they don't really say how they arrived at that. And they said that they think there will be another $500,000 that they are going to declare against the spending limits. The press has two theories on it. They said that Hart's got a hell of a good issue here and that we better get rid of it fast. The other is that they just don't need the money anymore. So they said, why, why take the hassle?
They're sitting caught, they're getting arrogant.
Yeah.
You can give the money back, but you can't get the trust back. There's a notion of giving the money back, but you're still a sleazebag or something like that.
We just said that CBS is just gonna rip Mondale apart tonight. That's the word we got.
Slice and hack.
Slice and hack.
This is great. This is it.
Gary Hart and others said stopping that practice wasn't enough, that Mondale should give the money back. Today, Mondale, in effect, agreed to do that. Gary Hart's response, that's still not enough. There's no way for Mondale to give back the primaries where those committees were active. A blizzard now in its fourth day buried north of the Rockies.
Mondale has made a politically smart move. End of story. May. It is less than 5 weeks before the end of the primaries. Hart's advisors join the plane with their own private poll that shows Mondale vulnerable in Ohio and Indiana. Hart could win both states. They all know he must start winning soon. The Mondale camp is selling the notion that it's impossible that Hart can ever win enough delegates to catch up.
Let me tell you something. If this campaign hadn't been optimistic, we wouldn't be here today. It is Oriental in the sense that our strengths are always our weaknesses. And his strengths were with labor in labor states. Now we're headed into states that are not labor states, and his strengths are not going to be his strengths. They may turn out to be his weaknesses. The calendar from now on favors me, in a nutshell. How do you see it playing out so you're going to be close enough to come after Mondale in the convention? I'll just repeat what I've just been saying. The states are much more favorable to us.
He's got 8 days to win the primaries in Ohio and Indiana.
Our vision for the future of this nation's economy must be a president who will lead in the rebuilding and repairing of this nation's economic foundations. A president who will lead in the modernization of our industries, the training of our workers with the goal.
The campaign here comes straight from their poll. Mondale has been winning late deciding voters who are worried about jobs. So in every speech and photo op, the Hart message is jobs.
Of manufacturing workers going back to work in this state in 1985. Our #1 domestic priority must be to create the best education and training system in the world. And I say to Mr. Reagan, if you think education is too expensive, wait till you find out how much ignorance costs.
Try to answer your question earlier today. You said it was up to Mr. Mondale to patch things up.
No, that's not quite what I said.
Bitter about the campaign that you're not interested in bending.
No, exactly what I said was that I thought that if there was reaching out to be done, that he had more reaching out to do than I did. Yes.
Senator, your campaign's been described as $4.5 million in debt. Are you $4.5 million in debt?
The answer is no.
You had said earlier, and have said over the last several days, that the polls show you to be more electable than Mr. Mondale. And now we have a poll that shows that essentially there's no difference between the two of you. So how can you continue to make that argument?
How can you say it's not who did what back in the 60s and 70s? Do you not think, for instance, that the Iran episode...
The political vultures are already circling the Hart campaign. If the senator from Colorado doesn't win something tomorrow, then his dying quest for the presidency is going to start looking very dead. Steve Shepard, ABC News with the Hart campaign, Columbus, Ohio. I think we got 2 week in the news, right? I mean, we said basically that, he's got to win something pretty soon, in our view. And I know he says that's not true. Maybe he knows something we don't know. But if he goes down in Ohio and Indiana, North Carolina, and whatever the other one is tomorrow, it's not going to look very good.
Right. And if he doesn't, then
now,
he
if
gets
he wins one of those, he's still alive. If he wins Ohio, he's very much alive.
Yeah, I agree.
Then we can all come back and say, hey, surprise. I don't think we're being rough on him. Most people like it.
May 8th, the day of the vote. The stories are all the same.
Hanko declared it, quote, inconceivable, unquote, that Hart would drop out now.
I mean, we can only keep putting people off for so long, and I want to make sure that when
So are the questions. The campaign is $4 million in debt.
things. If you all can agree on sort of roughly what our situation is, do we have outstanding loans? People have asked if we're still getting paid, and I've said, well, I just got a paycheck, and people seem to let it go at that. Little do they know it was my January paycheck, but...
What's going to be the reaction, not to the advanced people in the field, but here, to everyone's going off salary?
What's going to be the reaction? I'm going to lose some people.
I think that's really where we're going to be at. Even if we won everything today, we really have reached that stage, and I think we've got to do it cleanly.
I'm prepared to tell people on the plane tomorrow, it's no more salaries.
Okay.
If that's going to be campaign-wide,
What you're talking about is freezing the existing debt, basically, because you're going to need the money flowing in to run the campaign going in. So just everyone has to understand what you're doing,
We think it's going to cost $1.3 million to run a all-out campaign from National Convention, and that includes nothing for paid media.
Late tonight, when indications are better, maybe we want to come back here and work on it tonight, when we have a clear indication of how we've done. Because if we lose all 4, then the press is going to abandon the Hart campaign.
Oh, 51-40, Indiana. That's what all the exit polls have been saying all day.
We've all learned this year that Gary Hart does well with younger, better educated, richer voters, those young, upwardly mobile
yuppies. Get those yuppies out. Hold on, yuppies.
I don't think we'll win it. And we will go from San Francisco to the White House.
Whatever tonight's results, Gary Hart says he will not drop out and somehow convinced himself and his staff that he can still win. But he has also convinced the people who comfort him that he is no fool and that he will not stay in so long that he will be embarrassed. Roger Mudd, NBC News, Washington.
Roger.
Winning in Indiana is not running a close second.
Excuse me, my audio has a crackle. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Election night for Ohio, Indiana, Maryland, and North Carolina. It's yet another night that depends less on the results than on how the press interprets them.
Roll back to Stone. The guy's up. Resurrection. Yeah, he's won Indiana, and he can win Ohio. It's dead even.
If that happens, the whole lid comes off again because he can win in Nebraska, he can win in Oregon. He's probably going to win California.
And even New Jersey.
New Jersey. And money starts coming back in. We start sleeping less.
Folsom, Ohio.
Yeah, losing the other 2.
Losing in Maryland and North Carolina.
I suppose they'll call, if it's close in Ohio, Hart's going to claim victory.
The Hart people say we're in the ball game, but they're 8 runs behind. It's the bottom of the 8th, and they may not have enough money to buy any gloves and balls.
Okay, when he goes down, he can claim Indiana, express what, real hope about Ohio?
Real good. I think we've got a real shot at it. And then unless North Carolina's tightened up to about 6 points.
I think he should not mention North
No, I don't want to mention it.
Nobody knows those two exist tonight.
And I think it wipes out last week. I mean, who cares about North Carolina?
And nothing else, certainly no one expected this. And we ought to, you know, we ought to say that.
Would you like us to turn it
Have you heard
on for you?
the figures?
No.
It has to do with resurrection.
Are we where I think we are?
In a press club gym or a hotel room on the road, meetings with Hart are infrequent and brief.
Okay, let's run through what we're going to do down there. You've got an anxious crowd. And I think Frank's right, Gary. You let them all cheer and go crazy when they see you.
Is somebody going to introduce him or
No.
just go for it?
It's a number. Indiana with 50% in is 40-38. You're ahead, but they're projecting you the winner based on the counties that are in and not in.
Who's they? NBC. And ABC.
Who else?
CBS is not. CBS says it's too close. Note that this is 250 pounds that he's lifting.
I wouldn't mess with that.
Thanks, Frank.
Say those numbers again.
23%.
These moments are often their only chance to get his attention.
Or I think you claim it.
Yeah.
Well,
No, but you say this, it's a union state, it's a heavily union state.
Oh, yeah.
Every office holder in the state.
Whatever happens, we won.
Every office holder in the state was against me. and
We're
if we-
ahead, and whatever happens,
And we're
we won.
ahead, and if we end up even, it's a victory.
Mondale has got to
If he
regard
loses-
this as an immensely
That's right.
disappointing day in
If he
Ohio.
loses,
yeah, we're also doing better with union voters than we've done in any of the major states now.
Really? Yes.
Yeah, we're running within 10 points.
And what I've been saying
And
downstairs
in
is
Indiana.
your economic message
It
was
shows-
really
it
heard.
shows- Carried
young, by the
Opportunity
way-
economy.
by the way,
was
we
really
carried
heard.
young-
union vote, and it shows you get the independence.
We carry the young union workers fairly substantially, apparently.
But it was the
And-
opportunity message that really
And
resonated.
independence.
This is what you planned. This is
We
how it's
both
supposed to
feel
come
this
out.
is the way we planned it out.
That's why you
We don't want to give the whole thing away.
You remember, don't
easy.
you? You remember, don't you?
Yeah. Wasn't the way I planned it, I'll tell you that.
Oh, well, John and I had, we got documents to prove it.
We may not have a candidate in a few minutes if this keeps up.
I think that's enough of that.
The next morning, campaign headquarters.
If you wanted to sum up what the people on the Hill feel at this point, they want the race to be over.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right, but I think
Hart's advisors must confront the fact that this year more than 500 delegates are appointed to the convention, the so-called superdelegates. They're party leaders. Many are members of Congress, where Hart is known as a loner.
We want unity, and we don't think we are the cause of disunity. We are talking about some issues of fundamental importance to the party itself, which will make it, in our view, maybe misguided, but in our view, a stronger party and work toward becoming a majority party again.
What the members will say to that is really what we want to do. We want to win in '84. And what you are doing, Gary Hart, you're making it more difficult for Fritz Mondale to win after the primary. It's inevitable that Mondale will get the nomination, and you're just making him, I mean, that's their argument.
Sure.
Now, how do we...
The margin of victory may well be the political pros, and that's the problem Hart's advisors face.
We're the outsiders, and Fritz is the insider.
And they like him. They don't dislike
They like him personally, on a personal basis. They like the people around him. They're committed in a lot of different ways. So if the ultimate result of this campaign is that we've got to play an insider's game to win it, you better think again.
June. He's won 4 of the last 6 primaries, but is more than 500 delegates behind. And it comes down to the end. 5 primaries on the same day, the two biggest on opposite coasts, California and New Jersey.
We must succeed in New Jersey. The voters of this state literally have the power to change the course of American history, and you can do it. I believe you will do it, and with your help, I intend to be the next president of the United States.
It's now mathematically impossible for Hart to win enough delegates to win the nomination outright. But if he beats Mondale in the final contests, Mondale won't have enough delegates either. The nomination will be decided at the convention. They cross the country 6 times in 13 days in a system that prizes endurance as much as anything.
Attention, Redwood Advance. This is Redwood Box. The press will be there in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is Redwood Box. Redwood Box. The press approaching. We'll be there in 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
As he plays to crowds on both coasts, he's really playing to the party elite, the uncommitted and the superdelegates who'll make known their choice once the primaries are over. Some of them have told Hart they'll support him, but only if he wins both New Jersey and California.
You got to remember, this is by nature. You're dealing with some pretty cautious people here. Again, when you're talking about the superdelegates, and I think they're going to want to sit back, see how things are unfolding elsewhere, see what kind of movement is going.
Well, if that happens in 50 states, I don't see how Hart gets anywhere. I mean, you guys are always talking about how that's going to happen, and then you say it's going to happen somewhere else first. Where does it start?
It starts with a couple of key people in a couple of key states.
Well, isn't this about as key a state as there's going to be if you win it?
Then you'll see a couple of key people come.
When?
I'm not going to...
As soon as something happens somewhere else.
Thursday at noon. I mean, what am I going to say?
Well, that's all we ever hear.
Down here, I ran to the rocks to hide my face. The rock said there's no hiding place. There's no hiding place down here. Did you hear the sport on the TV holding forth about war, nukes, and victory? He was dreaming, of course, but he runs the Air Force, and he's talking about World War III. Oh no, there's no hiding place down here. There's no hiding place down here. You can run to the rocks to
Senator, the delegate count at this point would seem to make the arithmetic, would seem to make it virtually impossible for you to get the nomination. You don't agree?
We'll get it on the first ballot.
Can you talk to us in a second?
No, I think we're done.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Now, I am a Democrat by choice, and I am proud of it.
On the campaign trail, you watch the candidates age. They are fueled only by exhaustion.
I am proud of it because the
But there's no stopping. Every week, there's another primary in another state, another audience wondering who you are. Every speech is as important as the last one. You can't make mistakes.
In this century, that was John Kennedy in 1960 and Franklin Roosevelt in 1932, and before them, Woodrow Wilson, and in between, Harry Truman and Jimmy Carter. And I am proud of those presidents, and I am proud of what this party has contributed to elevate the standard of living for all Americans in our society.
Washington.
Stands up for what he believes is very close.
Hart's polls for New Jersey and California are taken by Pat Caddell and his associates.
Strong leadership is about where it was, maybe a little bit better than New York and Pennsylvania. Excite and inspire is where it is. Crisis.
They search for more than who's ahead or behind. They look to those phrases which describe the underbelly of the electorate, what people actually think of Hart and why.
New Jersey looks difficult to me. I agree with that. Now, let me...
To win both states, they must devise a strategy with a different message and plan for each, based on the money they have, Hart's strengths, and his weaknesses.
Understands the problems of New Jersey. It's Gary Hart's lowest comparative, 23%. Now, here's the thing.
Hart is 7 points behind in New Jersey. California looks better.
I mean, look at California, by the way, and that's why I think California's going to come. We're ahead already on CARES. We could go easy there and win, but don't win, but not win a major delegate victory. That could be the trade-off in trying to win New Jersey. So
we're not going to have it both ways, right?
I doubt it. I mean, unless there's something they've come up with more money than I think we've got out there, we're not going to have it both ways.
What would happen if they were asked to make a sacrifice for New Jersey? This would go over very well, right?
What?
In California, in terms of
that's a real delicate issue. And I suppose if we just flat out believe we could not win New Jersey, then we got no other choice. But my own feeling is that's Mondale's nomination. Mondale's nomination, I believe, rides on the New Jersey beauty contest.
Right, if he wins it.
Right.
Why won't the Mondale campaign
New Jersey.
Federal Election Commission hearings that are
Ray Strother preps a group of people recruited by his office to appear in the last round of Hart campaign ads.
He promised to pay back the money. Why is he going to wait till the primaries are over and use the money? Isn't that the same as getting the money? Okay, that's...
They will appear on TV as average citizens.
You know, used to, when I got started in this business, New Jersey was sort of a joke, and it isn't anymore. And I want to ask you out there, what happened? You know...
But what they will say has been carefully planned. It's Strother's job to make sure these people speak the message the Hart campaign wants New Jersey voters to hear.
All I ask is don't look at the camera. If you glance at the camera, it really ruins the shot. What I'm asking you to do is be spontaneous, because spontaneous is real. Tell me, Gary Hart's talking about change, he's talking about the future, and somehow he says that this state fits his pattern, fits his plan for America. This state proves that something can be done. What do you think about that? Make that transition. Gary Hart, new ideas. Is that New Jersey?
I think it is, yes. He's got ideas for the future. He's got a new tax plan that he's thinking about.
What about you in the back?
The positive message is to play to New Jersey's pride, that if New Jersey can change, so can the country. It links the state with Hart's original message, new ideas.
Like a regular person.
Was it wrong to take that PAC money?
Yes.
Was it dishonest or just unethical or just a mistake?
Tinge dishonest.
Probably all of the above.
Unethical. Unethical and dishonest. And if he's mistake? No. I don't think it was a mistake. He knew what he was doing.
He's unethical and dishonest about something like this. If he does get into office, how will he handle the country in that respect? Is it going to be just as dishonest and unethical about every other issue that comes up? I wouldn't trust him.
Okay, cut. Thank you very much. This is the finest cast we've ever had. Good to
What
see
do you say that to all of them?
No. This is
After 2 hours, Strother has almost all the material he needs, except for putting the candidate in the scene.
Senator, somebody said that they've made a difference here, and that's sort of they have a vision for the future here that you don't find other places. How can we infect the rest of the country with this vision for the future?
The United States has done the best when it's had a clear vision of its future. That's what we need in the 1980s. The people of New Jersey have provided that vision for their own opportunities here at home in this state. You have proved what this country can do if you have the right kind of leadership, and that's the kind of leadership I want to provide this nation in the 1980s.
Cut. Very good. Yeah, it's a nice piece. And we finally got on theme. Yeah. Very good. You don't need 30 seconds. It takes a while.
Old leadership of the past that hasn't worked will not work in the future. And my opponent hasn't outlined what his vision for the future is.
Hair's going all over. Yeah. That's natural. It's real.
There is.
I didn't use hairspray.
Unethical and dishonest. A mistake? No. I don't think it was a mistake. He knew what he was doing.
If he's unethical and dishonest about something like this, if he does get into office, what does that say for his administration?
Do we want to go that far out on integrity on the spot?
We can't. We can't call him a liar on the spot.
No, I don't think so.
Hey, Ray, can I ask you something? Yeah. Hang on to this stuff. Because a lot of it that we don't use, I think we may use after June 5th.
Yeah?
I really mean that. I think there's something I'd like a lot of Democratic office holders between June 5th and the convention to take a look at what these people are saying.
Be very interesting. Go back all the way through the reel. I'll let Paul see it all. You missed part of it.
I'll just walk over. Anything I ought to know about? Well, tell me. Oh, really? Oh, they're doing well out there, aren't they? It's always good to know. All right, bye. was in California last night, and he said that my wife Lee has been out here campaigning for 12 days, and I've been stuck in New Jersey.
Who said that?
A fundraiser. They never close fundraisers. If he was before, I mean, I'm sure if he, if he was before an audience, he wouldn't say that. A fundraising thing is always a different kind of setting. NBC's going to run it over the weekend. Well, if that comment becomes a story, we're dead in New Jersey, because our spots are basically going to be advancing this notion of linkage of Hart to New Jersey on the economic future and what they've already done. And get that quote out there, and we're dead. And I think we've got to prepare. We're going to have to think about and prepare a very strong, almost kind of indignant response from him, saying, "Wait a minute, I was talking about my wife, who I hadn't seen in umpteen days because I've been there and she's been there. It doesn't have anything to do with New Jersey
in any other state."
But I think we better be ready to do that, because he would not say that if he was. I don't think he wouldn't say it if he was in front of a Q&A. It'd be a different psychology. When he's in a fundraising group, he sort of lets his guard down a little bit, and then you get a quote like that, which is, I mean, he wasn't, it was just sort of a natural thing. You or I would say it, but we're not campaigning for president. Yeah, well, yeah, I know. Okay, see ya. Well, how can you say? These spots may be rendered meaningless.
I can foresee a Mondale spot.
Gary Hart, quote, "I was stuck in New Jersey."
Gary Hart wants to say New Jersey's important, but what does he really think when he's outside of the state?
May 25th, 1984, Los Angeles, California.
Paterson, New Jersey. The Hart schedule has been planned so the television pictures will be ones of enthusiastic rallies, suggesting momentum in the final days before the vote. But the TV audience sees replays of the gaffe more often than it sees what he says on the stump.
I have a vision of this nation in the 1980s, a vision of an economy in Paterson, in the state of New Jersey, and all across America, in which unemployed people are back to work repairing and rebuilding the bridges and highways of this nation. And I have a vision of the best education and training system of any country on this planet. And when I debate Mr. Reagan next fall, and he says, "How do you intend to pay for your education policies and those jobs?" I intend to say, by canceling the MX missile and the B-1 bombers. This campaign began in the snows of New Hampshire with an upset win in the first primary. Tomorrow ends the primary process, and I believe here in New Jersey, we are going to upset the pollsters, the pundits, and the experts, and we are going to win the New Jersey primary.
In New Hampshire, they used to call Gary boring, and he was the issue candidate. And, here was another living room of 40 people that he bored again because he was talking about issues. Well, people listened to that, and they discovered him and appreciated what he had to offer. But since then, he hasn't been able to do that, so it's all filtered through the media. And whatever they choose to focus on is what people know about him. So it's a different kind of choice.
Gary Hart, running for president. Good to see you. How are you? Nice to see you.
And he believes he's going to win. He still does, after all this.
Gary Hart, running for president. Good to see you. Need your help. Morning. How are you? Gary Hart, running for president. Good to see you.
June 5th, the last day of the primaries.
Big Sur and Jerry Brown in a jogging suit.
It's like the last day of camp.
Sipping wine and eating quiche. Grand Junction, Colorado.
The campaign seems little more than a kaleidoscope of hotel rooms and bus rides, photo ops, and events.
Senator, is it true that you were called hot pants when you were in high school? Well, sort of.
Was that the way you responded?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I think we could have a separate category for the harrowing moments in our charter plane.
But the sharpest memory is yet to come. The campaigns chartered a plane from the only airline to extend them credit.
Ladies and gentlemen, we had a problem with number 3 engine, and we're just going in and land. There's nothing to worry about.
Molly, get up here. We are landing this airplane. You're just going to make a problem. Let's don't make a problem we don't have.
All the experienced flyers on this plane.
We all right?
And the panic hit, just like
Hey,
that.
folks, we ought to be landing here in just about a minute and a half, so you all relax. But just recheck your safety belts, please.
Harrowing moments? This one goes at the top of the list.
I'm not getting back on.
I'd like all you people to remain seated.
Don't pay me enough. Try this again.
How did you feel when you saw the plane?
Shitless.
Ah, I'm glad to know. How did you feel? Did it frighten you?
Senator, you know what happened?
Blew out the engine.
We just paid $3,000 for all this food.
The charter company is having a fire sale on shrimp.
It was like the Titanic.
You're my God.
Yeah, near my God.
You've heard about our travail. It was almost it. It was almost over. Quickly, because we only have about 5 minutes. What are the exit polls? Okay, now is there anything...
4 p.m. Eastern Time. The polls are still open, but the networks know what's going to happen in New Jersey.
Hi.
You already got that?
Bob Kerr just handed me NBC's, which was 47-26, which has us down 21.
Hi, is Eli around?
Should drop out? Yeah.
No.
Will the delegate fight be over this today? You don't think so?
We go to... No, I said no. No, it goes to the convention. Whatever happens
And then what happens?
I win the nomination on the first ballot.
You're sure of that?
Yes, always have been.
What about the uncommitted delegates?
We'll win those on the issue of electability. I'll have the best chance to win against Ronald Reagan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary, I hope you win. You, talking to you, especially to you. Everybody's getting pushed right down where the cars are coming in.
The uncommitted delegates and congressmen who might switch to Hart's side live mostly in East Coast time. And what they see on the nightly news is not that he may win here in California, but that he's already lost New Jersey.
Senator, any comment about the results in New Jersey so far? We haven't heard a thing. We've been on airplanes all day. Thank you.
Senator, our protection on the I will expand those thanks for Lee, John, Andre, and myself to the tens of thousands in South Dakota, in New Mexico, and in the state of California, who I think have given us 3 out of 5 victories tonight.
The hardest thing of all may be knowing when to say it's over. No more cheering crowds, no more chants that you might be president. And if the candidate won't say it, neither will the staff.
Hart delegates had 4,056,000. Mondale delegates had 3,770,000.
In a final twist on the rules designed to benefit the frontrunner, it's Hart instead who wins a huge delegate victory in California, enough to keep Mondale from going over the top during the night.
Now, it wasn't so bad on the morning news. I don't know if you saw them. Well, the one I saw basically said Mondale says he's got it, Hart says it's not over and he's going all the way, and Jackson says he's going to stay in it to do what he needs, or do whatever. I mean, if we keep that being the news, I think that's okay.
Give or take.
Oh, boy, do I have a headache. We've swept the West. We've swept New England. We've even swept the primaries of the Midwest. Ohio, Indiana, Wisconsin. I mean, it's a hell of a story. You know, it's less Gary Hart than the Walter Mondale. How can they nominate a guy who's lost 9 of the last 12 primaries, hasn't won a primary west of Illinois and Tennessee, has lost...
We've got to make a decision on going back. The feeling is on the Hill that we ought to go back.
You're kidding.
No. They've set up meetings with Byrd and with Kennedy and with Bumpers, and Dodgefield's got to come back first thing tomorrow, 9:30 tomorrow morning. And the things are starting. Tip O'Neill arrived at the house today saying he was going to meet with Gary Hart tomorrow and was going to advise him. He apparently said, I'm going to tell him that I love a good fighter. He's fought a great fight, and we Irish love fights, but it's time to get out. But the feeling is there's a whole lot of people who feel that we ought not.
At this moment, in Minnesota, Walter Mondale is on the telephone, rounding up enough mayors and congressmen, superdelegates, to give him the 1,967 he needs to say, I am the nominee.
How's your day?
Oh, terrific. I can't wait to get going on this one.
If there's anything that's been consistent about the impressions about this campaign is that it's been over several times. It was over before New Hampshire. It was over before Ohio, and there will be those, I'm sure, today who are saying or have already said that it's over once again. I would think after enough projections of this campaign being over when it wasn't, that people would understand that's a dangerous thing to do.
Seams are all right. Keep going. Look for dirt on here. If you fall down, that's what you're going to fall down on.
There are 6 more weeks until the Democratic convention, but this is really the last ride of the Hart campaign.
Yesterday on air and up, we thought we were going to die. We held our heads between our knees and kissed our ass goodbye. Senator Hart's on number 3 full apart. As soon as we left the ground, he said to his son, get your seatbelt on. I think we're going down. The video police jumped out of their seats. They cannot miss a shot. This plane goes down, we won't be around. It's the only chance Mondale's got. It's the only chance Mondale's got. Well, I don't know.
Gary Hart ends his journey in San Francisco. He has 1,200 delegates. He is $4.5 million in debt. He says he'd do it all over again.
I ask all those in this hall and across this land who fought and bled with me in so many noble battles to join with me as I ask you, Madam Chair, to entertain a motion from the floor of this convention to make unanimous by acclamation the nomination of Walter F. Mondale as the Democratic nominee for President of the United States.
Do I hear a second?
Democrat or Republican, 4 years ago or 4 years from now. This is the journey you must take if you want to be president.